Hey guys, it's Jace here. Today we're talking about one of the hottest debates in Monster Hunter. Playing with ranged weapons versus going in with a big sword or some flashy dual blades. Specifically, we'll be diving into the pros and cons of ranged weapon gameplay, including the bow, the light bow gun, and the heavy bow gun. So you can decide which style best suits your personal taste and hunting needs. Whether you're a newcomer eager to stand toe to toe with your first great Jagras, or a seasoned veteran excited to sharpen up your ranged game, this video has got you covered. So, grab your potions and let's get started. Monster Hunter is famous for its wide array of weapon classes, each with its own style, moveset and learning curve. If you've ever been frustrated with the slow movement of some of the melee weapons, or you find joy in the idea of carefully lining up a perfect shot for maximum damage, then the ranged arsenal might be calling your name. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't it boring to just stand back and shoot? Well, that misconception is precisely why we're here today. Ranged combat isn't just about firing bullet after bullet from a mile away. Between ammo types, coatings, specialized attacks, and intricate combos, using these weapons effectively can be just as deep and strategic as wielding any massive blade. But just like every weapon class in Monster Hunter, ranged weapons also come with a set of pros and cons. Let's start with the benefits that make them such an appealing choice for a lot of players. The number one advantage most people attribute to ranged weapons is the relative safety they offer. Since your attacks have a long reach, you can keep your distance from even the most aggressive monsters. This generally lowers your risk of being flattened by a tail swipe or stomped by a charging beast. As a ranged hunter, you have an easier time avoiding massive hit zones. For instance, if you're facing off against a monster like Rathalos that loves to take to the sky and spit fireballs, you don't have to worry about your sword bouncing off its wings. A well-placed arrow or bullet can still land clean hits, even if the monster is airborne. This strategic positioning also means you can exploit monsters' weaknesses without having to circle around and hope for an opening. In a team setting, your fellow hunters can focus on drawing aggro while you pick your shots from a safe vantage point, dealing continuous damage without fear of frequent interruptions. However, safe doesn't mean stress-free. When the monster decides to charge at you, you might have less defensive capabilities compared to a melee weapon with a sturdy guard, like the lance or the gun lance. Yet, as a baseline, you will find it much simpler to evade many attacks if you learn to keep your distance effectively, whether that's by side dodging or carefully positioning yourself behind terrain. One of the most appealing aspects of the ranged repertoire is the versatility offered by various ammo types, coatings, and custom mods. For bow users, coatings change your arrows to inflict status effects like poison, paralysis, or sleep, or to boost damage with power coatings. For bow guns, both light and heavy, you have a remarkable selection of ammo types, each with unique properties like normal, spread, pierce, sticky, cluster, slicing, elemental, and more. You can tailor your loadout to exploit a monster's specific weaknesses. Is the monster weak to thunder? Load up some thunder ammo. Is it vulnerable to status ailments? Break out the paralysis and sleep ammo to set up huge punishes or combine with traps. If you're in a team, these status shots can transform the flow of the hunt entirely, allowing your group to safely hammer away at a paralyzed or snoozing monster. And if you're playing solo, you have a reliable means to force openings that might be more challenging with certain other melee weapons. This ammo dance becomes a minigame of its own, keeping hunts dynamic. Each new foe you face encourages you to think carefully about the best loadout. Experimenting with different bowgun mods like recoil reduction, reload speed, or shield attachments can further customize your playstyle. You could really focus on high damage single shots, or you might prefer rapid fire to keep up consistent pressure. Either way, you've got options, and options are power in Monster Hunter. Have you ever been in a group hunt where everyone is tripping over each other with melee attacks? Ranged weapons can be a breath of fresh air in multiplayer. They allow you to maintain distance from your allies as well, so you're not juggling each other. On top of that, many ranged weapons can support the team with status effects or specialized shots. For example, light bowguns can sometimes rapid fire status ammo, effectively controlling the monster and keeping it locked down for the group. The bow can also use coatings like exhaust or sleep to help create opportunities for massive group damage. And if you use certain ammo types with the heavy bowgun, you can literally drop bombs on the monster's head, dealing big chunk damage and occasionally stunning it. In other words, with a ranged weapon in the mix, your team can maintain a more consistent DPS cycle, exploit weaknesses more easily, and drastically reduce the monster's window for counterattacks. Ranged hunters also help break hard to reach parts, like the tails of flying wyverns or horns on tall creatures. This can be crucial if you're targeting specific monster drops or want to secure break rewards. Alright, so we've covered a lot of great points about ranged weapons, but as we all know, nothing in Monster Hunter is ever perfect. Let's talk about the downsides. First off, one of the biggest frustrations for ranged weapon users is ammo management, or in the case of bows, coating management. Unlike melee weapons that can hack away indefinitely, with just a need to sharpen periodically, ranged users rely on a finite resource. You have to bring the right ammo types or coatings into a hunt, and if you run out, you could find yourself in a precarious spot. While it's true that you can craft more ammo or coatings during a hunt, provided you bring or gather the required materials, this often requires extra planning. You'll need to manage your item pouch carefully. In longer fights or when facing more durable monsters, you might run out of high damage ammo midway and be stuck with suboptimal shots. This resource dependency can also cost you more money in the long run, as you continually stock up on ammo or components. So if you enjoy a pick up and play style without worrying about what's in your pouch, you might find the meticulous ammo crafting a bit off-putting. Ranged weapons require that extra bit of inventory juggling both before and during hunts. Although ranged weapons generally excel at maintaining distance, they often lack strong defensive moves. The bow has quick dodges and the bowguns can roll or sidestep, but none of these can compare to, say, the lance's shield or the greatsword's guard, or the sword and shield's quick blocks. If a monster corners you or charges unexpectedly, you may find yourself with fewer protective options. Furthermore, stamina plays a crucial role for bow users, who rely on charging shots and dodging frequently. If you're not watching your stamina bar closely, you could get stuck mid-animation with no dodge or shot available. This is especially true in Monster Hunter titles where you might have to keep an eye on stamina drains due to cold environments, special monster auras, or repeated dodges in a short span. Heavy bowgun users in particular move slower when their weapon is drawn, making them susceptible to rushes and swipes. Sure, some can equip shields or specialized mods, but it won't be as robust as a dedicated shield-based melee weapon. So while you might think you're safer at range, one wrong move and you could find yourself carded if you're not positioning and timing your shots with care. Anyone can pick up a bowgun and shoot from afar, but to really maximize damage, you need to master the complexities of critical distance, ammo choice, and weak point targeting. Ranged weapons are extremely powerful when used correctly, but they require a good understanding of where to stand and when to fire. For those who might not be familiar, each ammo type has an optimal critical distance that determines how much damage you deal. Too close or too far and you're dealing suboptimal damage. And that's not including the possibility of missing your shots entirely if you're poorly positioned. The bow also has a sweet spot for each shot charge level. Managing your stamina, maintaining distance, charging to the correct level, and hitting the monster's weak spot can be a juggling act, especially in frenetic fights where the monster is constantly moving. Furthermore, if you really want to push your damage to the limit, you'll need to memorize monster weak spots, study their elemental resistances, and choose the right ammo or coating for the job. You might be switching between ammo types on the fly or constantly reapplying coatings for your bow. That means more mental overhead, which might be overwhelming for new players. If you're looking for a simpler approach, some melee weapons can be more straightforward in terms of combos and resource management. But if you love complexity and optimization, then you'll definitely find it with ranged weapons. And there you have it. A deep dive into the pros and cons of playing ranged weapons in Monster Hunter. They can be an amazing choice if you love methodical, precise gameplay and want the flexibility of status effects or elemental ammo. On the flip side, it's important to remember the challenges: ammo and resource management, the need for proper positioning, and a higher skill floor to truly excel. If you're up for the challenge, you might find that ranged weapons open up an entirely new dimension of Monster Hunter combat. They can be some of the most rewarding weapons when you put in the time and effort to master them. Before you know it, you'll be popping off status effects and landing perfect critical hits from across the map while your teammates cheer you on. Whether you decide to main a bow, a light bowgun, or a heavy bowgun, remember that the ultimate goal is to have fun and enjoy the hunt. Experiment, mix and match different builds, and find what works best for you. Let me know in the comments if you're already a dedicated ranged user or if you're thinking about picking one up for the first time. What's your favorite monster to fight with a ranged setup, and do you have any pro tips for new hunters? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your other hunter friends who might be on the fence about playing ranged. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more Monster Hunter guides, tips, and discussions. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.